Natasha from MotionWorks Physiotherapy Orleans, and I'm a new physiotherapist at the clinic who is bringing an added level of physiotherapy to our team with respect to concussions. So what we're going to be talking about today is how to know if you've had a concussion, and if you have had one, what are the first things that you should do right off the bat so that your recovery can be nice and easy moving forward. So a concussion can happen from a strong hit to the head. It can either be from a whiplash type of injury, such as a car accident, from a sporting injury, or even standing up and hitting your head when you're at home. Okay, so the first signs that you want to look out for if you have sustained a concussion are headache, dizziness, nausea or vomiting, ringing in the ears, sensitivity to light or sensitivity to noise. You can have a loss of balance as well as a couple of other symptoms. So if you feel any of these symptoms coming on after you've sustained a hit to the head, it's important to go see your family doctor. They can help to diagnose a concussion for you, and they can also give you some things to work on in the acute stage of your concussion. So it's important at first, the biggest thing that I can say is to rest. Now, when we think of rest, we mostly think of physical rest. So lying down, just relaxing, chilling out, but it's also important to do cognitive rest as well. So your brain is being used at all parts of the day to take in all of the information in your surroundings, and some things can be really challenging for your brain that aren't necessarily challenging for your body, such as watching TV, reading a book, doing mental math, or doing any puzzles. All these things can be really challenging for your brain. So it's important to rest physically, but also to allow yourself to rest cognitively, because your brain is such an important piece. Okay, so make sure that you rest, make sure that you relax for at least the first day or so after your concussion. If you've had a concussion and you're supposed to go back to work, you should think about taking a day off from work and maybe even a couple of days after that. Same thing if you sustain a concussion and you're supposed to go to school the next day, it's usually a good idea to take some time off. The more time that you take off at the beginning, the easier your recovery can be afterwards. Once you've been diagnosed that you've had your concussion, you've taken your 24 to 48 hours of absolute rest, now it's the time to start slowly reintroducing things into your environment and into your day-to-day life. So one concept that we'll be talking a lot in physiotherapy about when we've had a concussion is pacing. So pacing is something that we all do within our day, but we don't necessarily realize that we're doing it. Okay, so I usually like to use the metaphor of 3 different color zones when it comes to our pacing. Okay, these are the common pitfalls that I see of people after they've had a concussion. So the first zone is the black zone. So we have our black, our gray, and our white. The black zone is the zone where you're pushing yourself way too hard, you're not cognitively or physically resting, you're doing all the things that you would normally do in your day-to-day life, but now you have symptoms like crazy. You do more, you get higher symptoms. What we usually see if you stay within the black zone is we tend to decline in terms of our function and in terms of our symptoms. Okay? The white zone is the opposite side of things, and I see this really commonly too. So we stay in the dark room, we don't do anything cognitively or physically, all we do is lie down in bed all day. What happens in this zone is that we feel okay while we're doing those activities, but anytime we reintroduce activities in our life, that can really spike our symptoms. So we want to stay away from the black. We also want to stay away from the white after the first 48 hours after a concussion. The gray zone is where we want to be throughout this process. And now the gray zone changes over time. It changes day to day. It can change during the hours of the day as well. But this is the zone that we want to try to stay within. So what the gray zone means is that you're challenging yourself a small amount to the point where it does increase symptoms, but only to a minimal level. So if we're using a scale of 0 to 10, we want to stay in the 2, 3, 4 range. All right, so we want to stay within that range of symptoms. We're doing activities that are meaningful for our life. We're challenging ourselves both physically and cognitively, but our symptoms are still manageable. We can still get through the day, and we're not going and pushing ourselves into the black. Okay, so this is going to be the toughest part of your rehab, is finding this gray zone, trying to stay within it. It's completely fine if you go out of the gray zone and go into the black or into the white, but the majority of the time in our day should be spent within this gray zone. If you feel that after the first couple of weeks your symptoms aren't improving, you can't find your gray zone, you're never even able to get to the gray zone because absolute rest is still giving you extreme symptoms, that is the time when you really need to get some extra help. So I recommend seeing your family doctor first and foremost to make sure that there's nothing more going on. But then I also really recommend seeing a physiotherapist who's specifically trained in concussion. It's not something that every physiotherapist treats or that every physiotherapist is comfortable with doing. So make sure you see somebody who's specifically trained in the ability to treat concussions, all right? And they can help you out by getting back to your normal life, helping you with your balance, with your range of motion, with your strength, all the stuff that we normally do as physios, and looking at the more specific things related to concussion as well, like pacing, eye function, and your sensitivity to all those different factors. All right, so in summary, if you have any of these symptoms after a strong hit to the head, most importantly, go see your family doctor, and if your symptoms do last longer than a week or two, it's a good time to go see your physiotherapist. The sooner you get help, the sooner you're going to feel better, and the shorter your recovery will be. Thanks.